Hello everyone, today you will hear an interesting story. It was the 4th week of living with Tamara, his wife's aunt, but Slava was ready to move in, even to the bare gray walls of the newly built apartment. Vika was 7 months pregnant when the developer sent a message that they could accept the apartment. The couple was excited because they would have time to make repairs, and their long-awaited son would be born in his own home. Vika and Slava quickly found a repair team and warned the landlord that they would soon be moving out of the rented apartment. But the very next day, the couple learned that very serious defects had been discovered during the apartment's acceptance, and the developer was in no hurry to fix them. The repairs were postponed, but they had to move out of the apartment because the landlord had already found other tenants. That's when Tamara said, "It's okay, you can stay with me for a while." Slava tried to refuse, but his wife was pregnant, so he had to agree. Vika was raised by her mother's younger sister, Tamara. The girl was only 10 years old when her mother died, and she had no father, so her aunt replaced her parents. Tamara immediately asked her brother-in-law to call her by her first name and did not look like a classic aunt at all. At first, Slava was even happy that his wife had such a wonderful relative. Tamara was a beautiful and slender woman who did not hide her age, but only emphasized its charms. Her hairstyle, makeup, manicure, and modern clothes created a vivid image that made her look younger, like she was 35 years old. It was hard to imagine this person twisting jars of jam, and in general, she rarely entered the kitchen. Tamara was constantly attracting the eyes of men, but she was still single. Aka was completely different. She loved to cook and was good at it. She also wore minimal makeup, didn't paint her nails, and had long hair, but that's exactly how Slava loved his wife. And when they found out that they would soon become parents, he was overjoyed, and no changes that came with pregnancy could distract him from his beloved. One day, the man was in a great hurry to get home to please his beloved, Vika. Slava ran into the apartment without taking off his shoes. "What happened?" She sat down on the bed and looked at him frightened. "Everything," he continued haggardly. The developer and his team fixed everything, and the specialist and I accepted the apartment, so we can finally start renovating. "Yes." Aika clapped her hands. "What's that noise?" Tamara looked into the room. "We are starting the renovation." Vika enthusiastically shared the great news. "That's great," Tamara replied calmly. Slava didn't like the look on her face at that moment, but he immediately shook his head. His imagination was playing tricks on him. This woman never allowed anyone to speak negatively about her son-in-law, and she herself always said only good things. Something has changed, Slava thought, trying to get the image of Tamara coming out of the bathroom naked. She had never allowed herself to do that before yet. Lately, Slava had caught Tamara in some pretty spicy situations. She would leave the door to the room open and start changing, or put on a light robe and start cleaning, and then unexpectedly Vakika was admitted to the hospital to preserve her pregnancy, and then Tamira went on the offensive. Slava returned late in the evening. First he visited Vika, then he stopped by the apartment to check on the renovations. He was taking off his shoes when Tamara came into the hallway wearing a very revealing dress with a deep neckline and 2 glasses in her hands. "Oh," she said, "you're just in time." Slava looked at her in surprise, and the woman came closer with a sexy gait. "I decided to relax and thought you might like to do the same." Slava had to press his back against the door because she was already touching him with her body. "Tamira, what are you doing?" She tried to kiss him, but the man turned away and moved to the side of the room. "I'm sorry," he said abruptly. "I'm not interested in that." "And you would be." He turned around before entering the room. "Would be ashamed of yourself." Slava locked himself in his room just in case, and as it turned out he was right to do so because at night he heard someone trying to open the door in the morning. In a bad mood, Slava tried to make plans for the day. Suddenly Tamara came into the kitchen, sat on his lap, hugged him, and kissed him on the lips. Slava heard the sound of a photo being taken and abruptly pulled away from the intrusive woman. "What was that?" he began. But Tamara just laughed. She was very pleased with what she had done, and she was in a good mood now. "Try to say something to Vika. I'm going to show her the photo." So in the evening, Slava warned his wife that he would stay with a friend because it would be closer to the apartment where the renovation was underway. He took a week of vacation at his own expense and went to speed up the work in their future home. A couple of days later, Vika was laughing, telling her husband that Tamara was nervous about Slava not spending the night at home, and even expressed a crazy idea about her mistress. It's good that the beloved wife fully trusts her husband and does not listen to her aunt's words. Finally, Vika said she was being discharged. Slava realized that he was just afraid to take her to her aunt, so he decided to make a surprise. "Where are we going?" Vika wondered when Slava passed the turnoff to Tamara's house. "Home," he answered calmly. "Fun." Vika didn't understand, and then it came to her. "Tom, you finished the repairs?" Vika happily ran around the apartment. She was pleased with what she saw. Up to Arend. "This is where our bed will be, and here is a children's corner, just for our baby. Let's still deliver something else today," Slava said as if by accident. "What? Do you remember when we ordered the furniture? But it won't be delivered until the end of September." 2 more weeks, Vika said. "Oh, it's coming today. I've arranged it." Vika threw herself into her husband's arms. "I love you," she laughed cheerfully. "I love you too." He kissed his wife tenderly. "Let's go get ready." Slava hoped that Tamara was still at work and they would have time to pack, but no such luck. Extemporately, "Oh, Tamara rejoiced, you're back." "Yes. He came to get our things." Can you believe Slava finished the renovation? Vika was taking off her shoes and didn't notice her aunt frowning. "Oh yes," she said. "Well done." Slava and went into the room. "What's wrong with her?" Akko wondered. Slava just shrugged his shoulders. In the evening, the furniture was delivered and immediately assembled. At evening, the man and his friends brought all the other necessary things. The next day, Vika was already settling into her new apartment. In the morning, Slava went shopping and returned home brooding. What happened? Aika was worried. "I want to tell you something." "It's okay," Slava said immediately, "but it will be unpleasant for you. But remember that I love only you." Okay, Ivaika sat down on a chair. Slava briefly told her about Tamara's behavior, about that evening and the photos. But in the morning, she called again, told me about the photo and demanded. He fell silent, not knowing what else to say. Finally, he continued. "She's coming now." I asked her to delete the photo, and she demanded a date. I told her that while you were away, she could come. Aika sat in silence. She could not believe that her almost mother was trying to take her husband away. Vika, crying, hid her face in her hands. "I didn't cheat on you. I love you and our son. I couldn't do that. I'm trying to believe you." Visay shook her head. "It all seems like a farce. She'll be here in a minute and you'll hear everything." Aika shook her head again, but the ringing of the doorbell made her jump. Slava silently went to open it while his wife sat in the kitchen. "Hello, darling," Tamara sang. "See? I told you. I told you you'd agree anyway. Hello, come in." The man tried to speak calmly. "How can you do this behind your niece's back? You raised her." "I can, and I want to," Tamara said, unhappy. "I didn't have time to do anything with my life while I was raising her. Well, all the weddings were going on. I took her to kindergarten, then to school. And now I'm left with nothing." Vika could not stand it and went out into the hallway. Tamara, seeing her, retreated to the door in fright. "So that's how it is?" She smiled. "Well, it's even easier. No more pretending." Tamara quickly ran out of the apartment. "I'm sorry." Slava hugged his wife. "For what?" she asked in a quiet voice. "Just forgive me. And forgive her for her weakness." Half an hour later, Vika was taken to the maternity ward, and late in the evening Slava was already looking at his newborn son. He was born completely healthy, albeit a little early. Almost a week later, the happy family was at home. Slava and Vika were with their son all the time. They loved being parents. One day, Tamara called. She apologized for her behavior and congratulated them on the birth of their child. At the end of the conversation, she added that she would never bother them again. 2 years passed. Vika decided to go back to work, and Slava supported his wife's decision because he understood that she needed to be among people. Much of all this time they lived perfectly. Tamara, as promised, did not interfere with them. However, the happy couple did not even realize that this woman harbored a grudge against both Slava and Vika. Every morning when Tamara woke up, she dreamed that something bad was happening to her niece's family. Knowing perfectly well where they lived, the insidious woman often watched them from afar. She was very angry that Slava still gently hugged Vika, kissing her on the cheek from time to time. Tamara's big secret was that when her niece first brought her boyfriend home to introduce him, the woman fell in love with Vika's chosen one at first sight. Plus all this time, she had been worried about their happiness. She, like any other person, also wanted a man's warmth and attention. Tamara believed that she should be thanked for everything she had done for her niece. And most of all, she wanted to have a child. So now she was outraged that Vika had everything, and she had nothing. A lonely woman sat in the kitchen, holding a cup of iced tea. But Tamara didn't notice her, lost in her thoughts. Her greatest desire was to break up the couple in love. But how to do it when Vika and Slava are together, almost all the time? And they trust each other so much, so it's impossible to do the same kind of meanness as before. But this family has a 2-year-old son whom they love more than their lives. Vika picked up her son from kindergarten and decided to take him for a walk on the playground. Walk on the playground in front of their house. She called Slava to see if he would be home from work soon. Suddenly, she saw a lone figure watching them nearby. Vika was surprised to recognize Tamara. The girl had been very kind to her since childhood, and deep down she missed this woman who had once replaced her mother. Although she still couldn't understand why Tamara had acted so meanly. But now, unexpectedly, she waved at her aunt. Tamara tried to keep her expression sad. Coming closer, the woman said, "Vika, I'm very sorry, and I came to apologize. I wanted to see you and your son. My family doctor recently told me that I have a heart condition, and I thought it was important to tell you." Vika looked at her aunt with tears in her eyes. She forgave Tamara because she felt sorry for her. They sat down on the bench and started talking about their lives over the past 2 years. Vika liked that her aunt was so interested in her son. Suddenly, Slava called and asked her to come to the car to help him with the shopping. The girl took her son by the hand, but the boy began to be capricious because he wanted to stay on the swing. Tamara offered to look after the child and looked at Vika so pleadingly that she agreed. When Slava and Vika arrived at the playground about 10 minutes later, there was no one there. The frightened parents ran around looking for the child, but could not find her anywhere. Tamara did not answer the phone. In desperation, they called the police to report their son's abduction. After talking to the police, Slava and Vika, upset, went home to wait for the news. Around midnight, the couple heard the doorbell ring. 2 police officers stood on the doorstep, one of them holding a sleeping child. The husband and wife were crying with happiness, thanking the police officers, who were invited into the living room. They told Slava and Vika that Tamara wanted to take their child to her friend in the mountains. But unexpectedly, her carefully thought-out plan was interrupted by her health condition. The conductor of one of the trains reported that his passenger was suddenly paralyzed, and she had a little boy with her. At one of the stations, where an ambulance was waiting for the woman, the kidnapped child was recognized. When Vika asked one of the policemen about Tamara, he replied, "You don't have to worry about this thief. She is now immobilized and can't even speak. Doctors believe that she will remain in this state for the rest of her life." Meanwhile, yes, she could not feel her body, but she was well aware of what was happening to her. This powerlessness was driving her crazy, but she could do nothing. The woman looked around furiously, regretting only that her trick had failed. Dear listeners, your support is very important to us. If you like our story, please like, comment, and subscribe. It's very motivating for us. We need your feedback to improve our content.